Good afternoon. Our chosen learner group will be younger learners, where we'll be focusing on age groups between pre-primary to primary. As with the growing concerns surrounding the young learners' literacy development and debates in what determines literacy success, our presentation will be focused on the topic of HLE, which is the home learning environment. So here is the agenda for this presentation. So the first article aims to investigate on the roles of HLE in the development of learning competencies. Likewise, the second article seeks to investigate the role and the effect of HLE on children's literacy. The two articles highlight one of the most discussed debates in literacy education, which is the importance of early education. So the authors from the both article advocates the power of early literacy education, particularly before and during the early years of children's primary schooling. And this is because, as it says in the text, the children acquire initial linguistic competencies long before school environments, and enormous variability exists already in young children's cognitive performance, which is stated by Nicholas and Schneider. Moreover, the background behind this topic highlights the issues of families' SES, which is the socioeconomic status, and how they are interrelated with children's academic and, in this case, the literacy achievement. Overall, the two important and key roles HLE plays in literacy development has been identified, which is firstly the crucial role environment and social settings play in shaping children's academic and literacy competencies, and number two, HLE as a mediator between SES and literacy competencies. First of all, we come across one of the prime notions or ideas from the two papers that HLE can impact not just one single but multiple facets of literacy. The literacy ability and to be defined as a competent reader, speaker, or writer of a language involves more than one element of literacy. For example, as presented in the second article, in order for a child to be classified as a competent reader, they need good vocabulary knowledge, phonological awareness, and knowledge of how words are spelled. The result from the research revealed that all linguistic measures, including vocabulary, letter knowledge, and phonological awareness, spelling and reading, have been correlation with HLE. So this posits a really crucial notion for all educators. We cannot understand one literacy skill as being separate from another. The authors from the first article, which is the De Jong and Leisman, supports this notion by claiming that the effect of HLE not only influences development of vocabulary and language comprehension that are needed for reading, but also argues how they too are related to stimulate children's oral skills. Nonetheless, the authors present three crucial aspects that are considered to be essential in order for a child to be a competent reader, as the focus of the research was on the reading. Hence, what they define as precursor of reading, which is the phonological awareness, a large and accurate vocabulary, and letter knowledge. And as the result from the study evidences, a child's HLE is directly related to literacy success, including reading and spelling, as HLE was highly correlated with three aspects that make one a precursor in reading and spelling. Therefore, HLE is a reliable and crucial predictor of young students' vocabulary and phonological analysis ability, whether they are in pre-primary or primary students. So this leaves several important challenges for us. We must re-examine the learning environment both in and outside of classroom and encourage a continuation of literacy education from class to home. So this may include promoting policies and initiation for families to strengthen their HLE, such as increasing child's exposure to various text types, having a certain hours of each day dedicated for reading a book with their child. However, very interestingly, De Jong and Leisman from the first article, their result also suggests a much more practical strategy to strengthen HLE. So according to the authors, developing and initiating HLE does not always have to involve literate interactions. Parents' non-literate interactions, such as informative conversation involving educational toys and games, could also be powerful enough to deliver quality HLE. So from the two articles, HLE is a form of highly literate or non-literate, can exercise its power to enhance young child's literacy, especially reading competency. Another key idea is addressed in the second article is the role of HLE as a mediator between SES and literacy competencies. The result from the second article ascertains the authors claim that HLE is a much more specific measure of literacy competency than a child's family background, such as socioeconomic status or migration. So HLE acts as a mediator between how SES can indirectly affect child's literacy. To support this argument, the authors provide examples from past case studies. For example, Wheeler and Nicholas and Schneider's, their case study reveals that SES and migration does not directly influence a child's language, but instead they do affect and determine what sort of HLE and support the child might experience at home, which then affects their literacy competency. As with the following example, the paper's result concludes that, as expected, HLE acted as a mediator between SES and migration background on the one hand, and the specific precursor on the other hand, independent of the language context. Thus, this result contradicts against generally perceived notion in education that one's SES and migration background determines the quality of education, which is highlighted by numbers of advocacies and studies in the internationally, including PISA results. So this completely contravenes against the argument from PISA results, which claims that academic achievement is very closely associated with the socioeconomic status of their families. Therefore, this article provides a crucial insight into the notion that the family's SES background or migration background does not always directly influence child's literacy level, but HLE as a mediator is influenced by SES and migration background, and as a consequence impacts their competency. HLE then plays a much more influential and crucial role for literacy development than SES and migration background. So rather than focusing on the family background, we must shift our focus on the home environment and what families can do to exacerbate the literacy environment regardless of their SES or migration background.
To consider how to advance home literacy environment, we select two related articles. An article with little help improving kindergarten children's vocabulary by enhancing the home literacy environment. A non-intensive intervention procedure was developed. And article continuity and change in the home literacy environment as predictor of growth in vocabulary and reading involves in two dimensions of home literacy environment and different ability achieved through different dimensions. The procedure in article consists of two steps. The first step refers to parents' evening, lasting about 40 minutes. During this time, lecturer invited by schools will use slides to demonstrate to parents about the importance of home learning environment and parents' influence on their children. It also refers to some specific advice on how to create attractive learning environment at home, such as reading often to children. Even parents themselves should read more often. Second step is individual guidance. Assistant observes during parent reading to their children for 30 minutes and note down parents' performance, like do parents ask questions regularly? Afterwards, assistant will point out strengths and give recommendations and also some reasons. The data of study shows both steps benefit children's vocabulary growth and letter knowledge. Both of them are predictors for linguistic competency in school. Beyond expectation, children also develop rapid naming ability, which predict overall literacy. Not only linguistic ability, but also the literacy in other subjects, like mathematical ability. However, these conclusions are based on a short period study without follow-up research, so continuity of non-intensive programs' influence is still unclear. These are meaningful ways the school can adopt to improve HLE for young learners. And this study also values the quality of reading to children as an essential component of HLE. Several dialogue reading strategies can engage young learners in reading, like to ask simple questions that can be answered through the story, or to encourage remarks given by the children, or encourage learners to expand the story. And another article divides home literacy environment into two dimensions. One of them is formal experience, when the activities mainly focus on the print form, and the other is informal experience, when activities are mostly about meaningful communication, like shared reading. Parents and young learners focus on storylines and pictures. Informal experience contribute to children's oral language development by enhancing vocabulary acquisition, while formal experience like reading words provide children with opportunities to improve early literacy, such as alphabet knowledge and knowledge about printing and reading skills. Two dimensions play different roles in learners' literacy development. This indicates that if parents feel that their children are falling behind in one aspect, like alphabet knowledge, they can create corresponding experience, like formal experience, to enhance that ability. And home literacy environment is not an isolated field in young learners' development. Actually, it interacts with school contact. As we have talked about, HLE can predict learners' performance in school. On the other hand, school and teachers can give advice to parents on how to improve HLE, and also can provide suitable reading materials based on learners' performance in class and exams. For example, teachers can select and provide audio and visual materials that fulfill both entertainment and educational function for parents, or to make a recommending reading list for home weekly reading. And school can also organize workshops in which school can help parents to raise their awareness and offer some specific suggestions.
I will introduce two current studies about HLE in Australia. One of them is focusing on the HLE of 4 years old young learners in Australia, which is young learners, the home literacy environment of Australian 4 years old, and it's written by Brown and others in 2012. Another one compares the home-based literacy activity in Germany and Australia, which is home-based literacy activity and the children's cognitive outcomes, a comparison between Australia and Germany, and it's written by Niklas and others in 2015. The target group of first study is 4 years old children in Australia. The aim of this study is to find the association between HLE and children's interest in, as well as their attitude to literacy. The second study tried to compare home-based learning activity in Australia and Germany between children and their parents, as well as they were investigated in the last year before their school entry. The result of this study showed some interesting phenomena. The first study shows that the parents passed on their own literacy practice to their children, which means the preference of parents' reading habits will affect their children's reading interests. Moreover, parents' preference literacy is reflected in the type of literacy activity they use with their children. Parents prefer literacy type is traditional literacy, as well as children prefer techno literacy. Due to the fact that parents and children combine the techno literacy and traditional literacy together, parents do more than simple model literacy behavior with exposure their children in the richer literacy environment. The second article indicates that there is high frequency of home-based literacy activity in Australia and Germany. Study shows that home-based literacy activity occurs less frequently than Germany in Australia. But this is due to a different measurement because it leads to different results. Compared with Australia, the association of home-based literacy activity and family background is much stronger in German, and this finding differed for migration background. OECD findings 2010 shows that demonstrate the academic achievement of German students are more dependent on family background variables than the academic achievement of Australian students. In addition, home-based literacy activity occurs more frequently in higher education family. That's all, thank you. And this is our references list.